Chicago Board of Trade building used to be the tallest building in Chicago for 35 years. You definitely can't tell from here, right? But if you were to stand in front of the building, you could see the longitude in the design of the building itself. Even more so at night. This building is actually lit from the bottom. It makes it even taller. Now, you also might recognize the Chicago Board of Trade as Wayne Enterprises from the film Batman Begins. Lots of Batman movies filmed here. Do we live in Gotham City or Chicago, Illinois? Don't know. Stay tuned. But moving on, if you look at this tall, kind of pink grayish tower in front of us with that crown at the top, this is 311 South Wacker, otherwise known as the Queen of Chicago. Definitely the Queen because of the crown on her head. What's interesting about that crown was that when it was first built, it was very brightly lit by over 1,000 light bulbs. In fact, it was a little too brightly lit. A lot of the birds in the city responded to that crown as if it were the moon, which unfortunately resulted in a good amount of them flying around the building continuously over and over again until a lot of them died at the base. Now again, we do value community here in Chicago, and our birds are part of that community. So we change those lights up there to LED lights, and during the months where the birds are migrating, we make sure to dim those lights so they will not be disoriented and they can go on living their happy feathered lives. Now this is going to be an eyes up, cameras up moment. Very gorgeous view of the King of Chicago. This very tall black box standing behind the Queen with the two antennas at the top is technically named the Willis Tower, but if you're from Chicago or you just know the social rules around here, we mostly call this building the Sears Tower. If you're only here for a short amount of time, call it the Sears Tower. I promise you I'm doing you a favor and saving you a lot of time. Now this is the tallest building in Chicago, and it was the tallest building in the world for 24 years. This building is made with 9 bundled columns, built to withstand 200 miles per hour of wind, and it's standing at 1,451 feet tall. This tall. If you're wondering about the design of the Sears Tower, I have a story for you. So Bruce Graham and Bowser Kahn were two architects on this project. They were having lunch one day. And Bruce looked at Bowser and said, I need a soft break. Then they made their way outside. Bruce grabbed the cigarette carton out of his pocket. He opened the cigarette carton and proceeded to grab one of the cigarettes. But then when he pulled the cigarette, there were 8 neighboring cigarettes bunched around that one cigarette. And then he stood back and he looked at his hand and he said, that's going to be the tallest building in the world one day. Okay, I don't know if that's exactly how it happened. You don't have to look at me like that. But that is where the inspiration for the design of the Sears Tower came from. A smoke break on a lunch break. Isn't that interesting? Now, what's also cool about the Sears Tower is that if you purchase a ticket, you can visit the sky deck at the top of the Sears Tower. Now, the sky deck has very gorgeous window views. It also has this thing called the ledge, where there are 5 glass boxes shooting out the side. You can take a picture in those boxes as if you were floating above, like all of Chicago. Now, I'd like everyone to just take a moment and glance at the top of the Sears Tower and physically feel in your neck how tall this building is.
Mírenlo. La otra semana venimos para acá con la familia, con mi hija a subir aquí al último piso.
Some of y'all were literally too tired to look at the top of this building. That is how tall this building is. To make it even taller, if you visit the sky deck, you can see 4 states from up there, believe it or not. You can see Illinois, obviously, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Indiana. It's a cool thing to see. Now, a lot of people who visit the sky deck get all the way up there into those glass boxes and kind of risk it all and jump for the pictures. And I was one of those. I was one of those people. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. Will I ever do it again? Absolutely not. I was terrified. But that picture was amazing. Okay. Now, if you're only here for a short amount of time and you haven't visited the sky deck, I suggest you do so. It's kind of a must-do while you're here in Chicago. This is a city of architecture. You've got to see the tallest building. You have to. If you're afraid of heights, at least go to the bottom and take a picture of the top. It's a very magnificent building here in Chicago.
¿Cuál Las Vegas?
Now, my final
Chicago,
and
número
honestly
uno,
favorite
papá.
fact about the
Un
Sears Tower
estado que tiene
is that there are two
historia.
people who
Aquí
successfully
fue la ciudad de Al
climbed
Capone,
the
donde
Sears
nació
Tower.
los gastes,
The first one's name was Dan
mejores
Goodwin,
gastes.
and he went down in
Aquí,
history as
papá, les dio
Spider
la
Dan.
candela.
He was dressed in a Spider-Man suit, and he used
Donde más se han
suction
hecho
cups to
movies
get
aquí
his way up
también.
there. The second one's name was Alain Robert. He actually didn't have any equipment at all. He kind of just hugged the building and shipping his way up there. He also did this with a measure of the tall towers in the world, one of them being the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the tallest building in the world. To give you some context, the Burj Khalifa is almost twice the height as the Sears Tower.
¿Ya hoy escucharon?
So later on, when Alain Robert was asked by interviewers, why do you do this? To which he responded,
it's because I'm afraid of heights. No es mucho.
Giving the phrase overcoming your fears an entirely new, dangerous meaning, right? If you're also afraid of heights, I do not suggest this be the challenge you take. Most climbers were successfully arrested at the end of their journey climbing the Sears Tower. And all in all, it ain't worth it. Find a different way. Find a healthier way to get over your fear of heights. Alrighty, moving on. Coming up on our left, we have another Art Deco giant. This building is called Riverside Plaza. Right across the river from the Civic Opera Building. Now, this was actually built the same year as the Civic Opera Building. So if you want to see a building made in 1929, look on both sides of the river now. There's my magic trick for the day. I'm going to talk about this building to our left, though. This is a very significant building here in Chicago. This was the first building in the country, actually, to be built with an open-aired plaza as part of its original design. This was also the first building in Chicago to be built intentionally facing our river. Again, going back to the relationship between Chicago and its river, I'm convinced that the two are best friends at this point. We have buildings facing our river, sections of buildings hollowed out for the river. We love our river here in our city, Chicago. Alrighty, moving on to the building right next to Riverside Plaza, coming up on our left, this tall building with a horizontal section attached to it is called the Boeing Building. Very gorgeous building. Now, what's interesting about this building is that even though we don't see it, there's part of it that is actually hanging over active rail lines. Because of that, the Boeing Building actually has to rent the air above those rail lines. So every year, the Boeing Building pays about $1.3 million to rent the air above those rail lines. I love seeing people's faces when I say that. Now, the Boeing Building was also originally constructed to be the headquarters of the Morton Salt Company. I'm saying that because if you were to look towards the top of the Boeing Building, you will see 6 holes. They represent the holes of a salt shaker. If you go to the lobby of the building, you will see the same 6 holes in the ceiling. I always thought that was a really, really cute design. The Boeing Building. But already moving on. Now, if you look straight ahead at these 3 tall glass towers right in front of us, I like calling these buildings the Destiny's Child of Wolf Point. This is the Wolf Point Trio. Now, in the very middle, we have the tallest one. Her name is Beyonce. It's the Salesforce Tower. So distracted. She's the only commercial building of the trio. And to the left of the Salesforce Tower, we have Wolf Point West, which was the first of the trio to be constructed. To the right of the Salesforce Tower, we have Wolf Point East, which was the second of the trio to be constructed. And the Salesforce Tower in the very middle was the final building to be finished. It was only finished like last year. It only took 8 years to build all 3 of these skyscrapers. Now, what's also cool about the trio is that they actually occupy a space that was just a simple parking lot before they arrived. And that parking lot was, and technically still is, owned by the Kennedy family today. Also, fun fact, the Kennedy family used to own the Merchandise Mart once upon a time as well, our large zip code building. Alrighty, moving on. Coming up on our right, we have this tall, curved glass building. This building is called the Nuveen Building. I want everyone to pay attention to the glass used in this building. I'm only saying that because you might notice it's a little bit more of a green color. Now that green color is meant to mimic the color of the river water we are currently cruising on. You might see some blue in there as well. That blue color is meant to mimic the color of the sky. It's a very gorgeous river sky pattern going up the front of this building. This is also the building where Ferris Bueller's dad worked in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now, going back to contextualism architecture, the Naveen building is another example of that. Again, context, seeing how the buildings talk and relate to each other and its surroundings. Those colors mimicking the surroundings of the building is an example of contextualism architecture. As we were making our way under the Franklin Street Bridge back through our main branch once more, I wanted to talk to you all about something I love doing here in Chicago during the summer. It's called Art on the Mart. Now, if you look to your right, you'll see a smaller black box with 34 projectors inside. Now, what happens during the summer, every night at 9 p.m., those projectors shine a light show on this entire face of the merchandise mart. Now, the show is completely free. It goes on for about 30 minutes. They play it on a loop until around 10:30 at night. Usually showcases local Chicago artists. Sometimes they are even students. All in all, it's just a cool opportunity to come out here and support and watch Chicago art. Now, if you're wondering if anyone inside of the merchandise mart gets inconvenienced or even annoyed by these light shows, what's super cool is that those projectors are actually hooked up to a system that's only programmed to shine on the areas around each window. So whenever these light shows are happening, none of it is getting inside of the merchandise mart. Because this is Chicago and we're cool. That was always so cool to me. Now, I actually got a glimpse of one of the shows that's playing on Art of the Mart right now, actually. I think it's called The Black Dancing Body. It's centered around the evolution of black dance. It was done by the Chicago Black Dance Legacy Project. They did a wonderful job. It's my favorite show that I've seen on Art of the Mart. I'm encouraging everyone to go see it. So if you have a free night, please come check that out. Moving on. Coming up on our right, we have these tall, gorgeous fraternal twin glass towers, 77 and 111 West Wacker. 77 is that Greek column design looking tower. 111 was the tower on the right, the more simplistic glass rectangular prism looking building. Now, 111 West Wacker, again, this tower on the right, this is another example of contextualism architecture. Again, context, seeing how buildings talk and relate to each other and its surroundings. Now, I'm sure you see these three indented patios in 111. They actually correspond with the roofs of neighboring buildings. Of course, that top patio being the correspondent to the roof of 77 West Wacker. Now, the architect who designed 111 West Wacker, Gary Handel, he actually did not start designing buildings until 2 years after 77 was finished. I'm saying that because even though these two buildings are twins, these architects never met each other. They never met, but they made my literal favorite couple in the sky. I'm pretty sure 111 West Wacker wasn't even built until around 22 years after 77 was finished. Now, 77 West Wacker is an example of neoclassical architecture. It's kind of an old meets new style. Again, that old being that Greek column design towards the top of the building, the new being these gorgeous windows that this concrete skeleton is flanking. I would say 77 has the best reflection of the sky in its river, in its windows here on the river. Now, the architect who designed 77 West Wacker, his name is Ricardo Bofill. He was from Spain. He actually designed his first building at age 17. It's a really cool thing. But yes, that was our gorgeous maternal twins, 77 and 111 West Wacker. But alrighty, moving on as we make our way up this bridge. The next building we're going to talk about is this dark green building, kind of straight ahead to the right a little bit with that gold leaf at the top. Again, the dark green building straight ahead to the right a little bit with that gold leaf at the top. Go ahead and raise your hand if you know what building I'm talking about. That's really nice. I'm glad y'all know, but that still wasn't the whole boat. Okay, the dark green building straight ahead to the right a little bit with that gold leaf at the top. Go ahead and raise your hand if you know what building I'm talking about. Yes, that's the whole boat. I got y'all. Now this is called the Carbide and Carbon Building. This is my favorite building on this tour. Probably my favorite building because it's kind of a silent protest. This was actually built during the Prohibition era, and it was designed to look like a gigantic champagne bottle. Wahaha! Now the features of this building include the green terracotta clay coating the exterior walls,
Miren por el
representing the
edificio
green
que vamos a
glass of a
pasar,
champagne
mis poderes catrachos.
The
Miren,
gold leaf
¿saben
on the
de
top
quién es ese
represents the
edificio?
foil wrapped around the top of a
Este,
champagne bottle.
ese
And
es el
some will say that the gold
famoso
paint going down the corners and sides of the building
Tower
represents
de
the
Trump.
bubbles pouring out of a
Trump
champagne bottle
Tower.
after it has been
Miren,
popped open.
ese es el
Now
famoso
what's also
edificio
cool about that gold leaf at the very
del
top is that it's actually
expresidente
painted with
Trump.
real 24
Miren.
karat gold paint. I don't think it's worth the heist though. That layer of paint is only about as half as thick as saran wrap.
Ya van a ver el
again,
nombre
it
de
ain't worth
Trump.
it. It's a very gorgeous building to look at. Now going back to the Burnham Plan of 1909, one of the projects that Daniel introduced was putting Chicago on a grid system. I'm saying that because I'm sure you've noticed the buildings we've been passing have been nicely spread out. There's room to breathe. There's a nice distance in between each other. Except for these few buildings to our right, these are the only buildings on the river that are literally squished together. I'm going to talk about that tall one in the middle there. This is called the Mather Tower, Chicago's most slender skyscraper.
Trump.
I'm saying that because the very top floor only has a diameter of about 9 feet. 9 feet. Now, the Mather Tower is also attached to the London House, which is home to one of the best rooftop bars here in the city. I actually think it was rated one of the best ones in the country. Very, very gorgeous views up there. I went up there one time with a few of my friends to take pictures because that's all we could afford. But listen, the cocktails looked gorgeous as they were being carried past us. The food smelled amazing as it was being carried past us. And when we're not broke anymore, we're going back. It'll be great. Maybe we'll see you there. We're saving up, so it should happen pretty soon. Alrighty, moving on. Coming up on our left, we have this tall French cathedral-looking tower right across the street from the Wrigley Building, right across the street from those street dancers. That's probably the crowd that y'all are hearing right now. Now, this tall French cathedral-looking tower is called the Tribune Tower. You gotta have to stand pretty when you say the Tribune Tower, because this building was actually built as part of a competition hosted by the Chicago Tribune to build the most beautiful building in the world. And this design is the design that won said competition. Now, the Chicago Tribune is actually no longer printed in the Tribune Tower. In fact, the Tribune Tower is becoming a residential building. I have a friend who's a realtor and a blogger. She toured one of the units inside of this building. It was amazing to see. Now, I think one of the condos up top go for around $8 million. So if you got that lying around and you're looking to buy, the Tribune Tower is a selling. And then invite me over because I want to see.
Saludos, mi cafita,
Now, what's also cool about the Tribune Tower is that in its exterior walls are embedded landmarks from different very famous structures in the world. Now, I got here early before I shift one day just to walk around the building and I got to see for myself. I saw a piece from the White House, the Taj Mahal, Pearl Harbor, and even the Great Wall of China. It was amazing to see. So if you're interested, check that building out. But moving on, coming up on our left, we have this gigantic triple-tiered rocket ship-looking building. This is the NBC Tower. Now, this was modeled after the Rockefeller Center in New York City. Now, the Rockefeller Center is actually an example of Art Deco architecture. Since this was modeled after the Rockefeller Center, this is an example of Eco Deco architecture, because we were so creative. Now, there were some cool shows recorded in the NBC Tower. Like every season of the Jerry Springer Show was recorded in the NBC Tower. May he rest in peace. There were a couple of seasons of the Steve Harvey Show also recorded in the NBC Tower. And if you are like me and my granny and you like judge shows, the Judge Mathis Show is still being recorded in the NBC Tower today. It's a cool place to check out if you get a chance to take those tours. But alrighty, moving on, as we make our way under this bridge, coming up on our right is going to be a tall tower with wavy balconies hidden behind this James Hardy black box here. I'm going to keep my arm pointed towards this building for the duration of me talking about it. A lot of people miss this building. It's a very important one. Now, this tall tower with wavy balconies is called the Aqua Tower, designed by Jeannie Gang. It's a very important name to remember. Now, these wavy balconies were made to maximize the amount of shade the tenants are getting inside, also to allow the tenants to lean over and greet their neighbors upstairs and downstairs if they wish to do so. Some people would say this is a genius idea. In fact, a lot of people did. She won the MacArthur Genius Grant for this design. This was her debut into the Chicago skyscraper scene. The Aqua Tower is the second tallest building in the world designed by a woman, only to be surpassed by Jeannie Gang herself. This very tall, blue, wavy, curvy, gorgeous tower to our right is called the St. Regis, also designed by Jeannie Gang. This is the tallest building in the world designed by a woman. Exactly. I love Jeannie Gang's designs. They're very, very unique. She rarely uses straight lines. I love her work. Now, if you're looking towards the top of the building and you see those two hollowed out floors up there and you're wondering to yourself, is this thing even done? It is, actually. Those two hollowed out floors are purposeful design. This is the 83rd and 84th floor. These are called blow-through floors. Now what happens is as the wind blows on the building, air goes straight through those floors, relieving pressure on the windward side of the tower. Also reducing the amount of sway that tower is having, because architecture is cool. Yes, that was our St. Regis, designed by Jeannie Gang. Try to remember her name. Jeannie Gang. Alrighty, moving on to the only skyscraper that is east of Lakeshore Drive. Coming up on our left. A lot of kids say it looks like a tall stack of fidget spinners. A lot of adults say it looks like a flask. Either way, this is Lake Point Tower. Now, the architects who designed Lake Point Tower were actually students of Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, the black box modernism guy. I told you he'd come up again. You see some of his inspirations come into play with this design, yes. Obviously, they were not feeling the box shape, though. They kind of wanted to take a little bit more of a relaxed approach by, taking the edge off.
Saludos, Pascual, saludos.
Thank you.
Aquí andamos, Pascual, aquí andamos.
I was really proud of that joke, though.
Disfrutando
It took me a while to put that
de este feriado.
Yes, there are
con la
no
familia.
sharp edges in the exterior walls of Lake Point Tower. I cracked myself up. Now, Lake Point Tower was the tallest residential building in the world for 25 years. Believe it or not. Now, it was also rumored for a long time that Oprah lived here. She did not. She never did. She was just seen visiting the restaurant at the top of the building all the time. Also, want to get your hopes up, that restaurant was down. But it was bought by a new owner and is currently being renovated into a new restaurant today. So even though we didn't have Oprah living there, we still had some famous people living there, like Alice Cooper, Tom Cruise, and my uncle's personal favorite, Halle Berry. So even though we didn't have Oprah living there, we had one of the cat women living in Lake Point Tower. And if you look in front of Lake Point Tower, this is one of Chicago's most famous cultural attractions, Navy Pier. So many things can happen at Navy Pier. Let me break it down for you. If you want to buy a cool gift or souvenir for someone, go to Navy Pier. If you have children that you want to take to the Children's Museum, go to Navy Pier. If you like watching live theater shows and you want to see a show at the Chicago Shakespeare Theater, go to Navy Pier. If you have a spouse, partner, or boo thing that you want to share romantic kiss with at the top of the Centennial Ferris wheel, go to Navy Pier. Either way, I think y'all should go to Navy Pier. Very, very cool place. Very magical place. Alrighty, I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and allow you all to enjoy this wonderful view of our Chicago skyline. It looks like we're headed straight to our dock area. I wanted to give you all a few moments with this gorgeous view. This is our last break, meaning the last call for the bathrooms in the back, last call for the bar in the back. I'll be up here to answer any of y'all's questions. I will talk to you all very soon, actually, in a few moments. Yes, go ahead and enjoy this break for a few moments. Straight to the back.
En este edificio vivía antes Sammy Sosa, Oprah y Scottie Pippen.
All right. I know that was brief,
Okay,
but you know what?
amigos,
You can still get a very good picture
saludos,
at our
cuídense.
dock area. We are still
Ahí
in the
estamos
area
hablando.
of a very great view.
Pasen un
Now,
lindo
as we're
fin de
making our
día.
way back to our
Se
dock
les
area,
quiere
the crew
con
and I would like
CATRACHO
everyone
Power.
to please
Bye-bye.
find your seats